Hello, Michael, and welcome to Systems of Existence. We already had a little chat about your cup because, from my audience, I'm a big coffee lover, literally my addiction, and I love coffee mugs. I literally collect mugs, and I think this mug, hold on, let me overthink this shit, is basically my main struggle in life. Overthinking. And I'm probably not the only one who has that issue. And we want to talk about mind control today. So I think overthinking ties in perfectly with our conversation and maybe even your journey with all of that. You mentioned that you usually only use this mug when it comes to you having friends over. So we are obviously friends and um, yeah, I would love to know why you only use it when you have friends over. And then also, yeah, before we dive into all the things mind control and the mind, um, tell us, who are you and what gives me the honor to have you on the podcast today?
Sure, Kathy. Well, good morning to you in Europe, although for us it's morning there. I think it's like 8 p.m. your time or something, right?
It's 5 p.m., so it's afternoon.
5 p.m. Okay, so rush hour traffic in
Yeah.
Germany?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, cool. So, a quick about me. I was a combat decorated pilot in Operation Desert Storm and was the intelligence officer for my squadron. And at that time, I was noticing because I was reading all the top secret traffic that something strange was happening worldwide in the traffic. And so it gave me a sense that there's more to the bigger picture. And this was obviously in 1991. So over the years, after I got out of the military, I became a screenwriter and then wrote and directed shows in Hollywood. I have a current show on Amazon Prime called The Gunrunner Billy Kane. It's a sci-fi pilot. You can enjoy that if you want. It's kind of fun. But basically, it led to me starting to study covert, I should say, covert events that I thought might have been real, such as Roswell. The more I got into studying those, then I realized not only through my sources that I have from kind of writing screenplays in Hollywood, but also my former military sources that, oh no, all this stuff actually did happen. And we have been hiding the reverse engineering of alien craft, or I should say ET craft, since the late 40s. And specifically, Germany was actually in cahoots with a particular reptilian race we'll get into a little bit later, even before that, in as early as 1933. So, Hush, which is my current novel, is a fictional account of basically the covert past since about 1940. Now, I specifically cover America's covert past, but within Hush, you'll also read about the actual first connections between the Nazis at the time who were in control of Germany in a roughly 1940s ish, all the way through their transition to base 211 below the ice shelf in Antarctica, where you had your breakaway Nazi civilization there. So that's essentially what is the reason I'm in front of you, is because Hush has become an international bestseller because I think people understand that very thinly disguised below the fiction is the actual facts. I'm a kind of an insane researcher. So I have to get a lot of different angles before I can even write a scene. And so I think you'll enjoy reading Hush or listening to the Audible.
I'm definitely gonna listen because I like to override my mind. I'm very auditive, so I usually listen to audiobooks. And obviously, because it's very coincidental. We wanted to schedule this podcast for a while, and I've been in Dubai for the past few years and just moved back to Germany, which is my origin, and I never planned, like I had always had a huge resistance towards being here and never felt like I belong here. I don't even know how I ended up in this place. Nothing resonates. And even now I live in my grandpa's old place for a while, and I feel like I'm visiting my ancestors and roots and origin for whatever reason, because I've always been very connected to galactic energies and galactic beings, researching all of that, and just very confused about what this whole dimension we are in really is all about. And I have always been really interested in the whole Second World War, Nazi whole agenda, and DNA manipulation and all of that, and what has been really going on back then. So, obviously, very interesting to talk to you today. So, give us some insights, because a lot of people still think, or yeah, want to believe that it's conspiracy, but there have been stuff, like stuff has been going on. Let's just say that.
Sure. So, well, I think you're in the right headspace to begin with. Your natural instinct of wanting to understand DNA and feeling kind of out of place and going back to your grandfather's place and back between Dubai and Germany. And I think on many levels, all of us have feelings like that to some extent. And there is a basis for it. And I'm going to give you both barrels because I don't hold back on podcasts.
I love
So
that.
I'll allow your listeners to hear what I'm saying, and it might be their actual reality. They can certainly read about what might be their actual reality in Hush, because I will kind of pull the curtain back on a lot of events from Roswell forward through President Eisenhower at the time, uh, basically beginning negotiations with alien races for the Americans. Now, before that, to give a brief, concise history of where it kind of all began is from all my resources. And there's a really, really great book. If you want to read about German history with the Nazis, I can't recommend The Dark Fleet enough.
I've heard that
Having
before.
said that, before I forget it, there's a brand new documentary out by the guys who do. It's Tyler and from. Oh my gosh, I'm on so many podcasts. I'm trying to remember the name of their podcast, but they have a new documentary coming about. Just type in new documentary secret space program, and it in the title is something like Behind the Green Door, and it deals with all of the people who I've put in Hush, who are the secret space program personnel who I've been studying for years. And when I was on their podcast, I started to mention the secret space program, which nobody believes in. And I said, we have all, Germany, America, China, Russia, have all been in space since the late 40s. The Germans were the first. Now, at the time, obviously, it was the Nazis, but I'm just going to say I may interchange Nazi and Germany today. Don't get upset about it. It's just that at that time it was Nazis. But Germany is still in space in a big way. And if you're having a hard time understanding it, type in on Google the brand new documentary. It's just now hitting the circuit. And it's literally interviews of all these people worldwide, citizens who were cloned and put in space, who are now having memories of being on various planets. But what's wild is they were all on the same various planets, like a Nazi colony on the planet of Ceres, which is a moon, which Tony Rodriguez was on, who's one of the leads in the documentary. And he's like, I worked for the Nazis for
Is it,
20 years.
to interrupt you, is it the Dwarf Planet series?
No, no, no. It's not a series. This is just a individual single documentary.
No,
Type
no, no, no.
in
I'm not talking about the documentary. You just mentioned the
the
planet
planet.
series. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. Is
yes.
it
So it's a
CERES?
C as in Charlie.
Yes.
CERES. Correct.
Oh,
So it's
that's very, I'm not talking usually I don't like to interrupt, but when synchronicities come up, I'm like alarm
sure,
bells running on,
sure, absolutely.
because we just had a new moon in Capricorn, right? And the new moon was conjunct my personal Ceres. And Ceres, that is a dwarf planet. So basically, because I work with astrology, I like to bring that into context. Ceres is the planet that is associated with nurturing or the lack of nurturing, so also starving, and a lot with like resources and yeah, food and all of these kinds of things, and is very connected to my personal, I want to say, mind control story that I see. It's a program that I have inherited as well, which is tied to my basically 20 years of having an eating disorder, like having a hard time nurturing myself, accepting nurturing. And that's basically serious. So it's very interesting that you said that what the Germans are there. Like, what's going on
Right.
there?
So again, I'll try to concise it down and I'll give you a reference for you to learn much more about it because we can't cover
Yeah.
how amazing that story is. And it's a tough story. But Tony Rodriguez, who's one of the top people in the documentary, in the secret space programs, was a slave on the planet of Ceres.
Wow.
So he wrote a book called Ceres Colony Cavalier, meaning I was a Nazi slave on a colony on the planet of Ceres. And this is my story, and I don't care if you believe it or not. I am telling you, that book is really hard to read, but it's the real deal. And what's wild about Tony's story, so Ceres Colony Cavalier will give you a lot more backstory on what occurs on that planet on a daily basis. It's incredible. And to realize that the Nazis colonized that moon for a number of reasons. One is mining, but it's also a current base for the Nazis. Now, this is the Fourth Reich, right? So after Hitler escaped to Argentina, which he did, many of the top scientists from Nazi Germany were taken to a place called Base 211 under the ice shelf in Antarctica because Heinrich Himmler and Fritz Todd, who were two of your top Nazis at the time under Hitler, were having seances to conjure Satan because they knew they were going to lose the war. So when they realized, okay, look, America and Russia are going to enter this war, that's just too big of a fighting force for us to eventually win. They started to do anything they could to bring in the occult to say, what can we do to help us, our little Nazi faction here, to win this war? In the midst, and this is like 1933, in the midst of those seances, what appeared to them was not the devil, but something kind of equivalent, and that would be what's called a Draco reptilian. And again, I'm going to give you both barrels, but you can read a book called The Dark Fleet, which is a really great book all about the actual history of how the reptilians came into contact with the Nazis first. The reptilians are a malevolent race, so there are bad races just like there's bad factions in humanity, right? We have generally humanity is pretty amazing, I think. We have big hearts and we try to do the right thing. But do we have factions on the planet that don't always do the right thing? Yes. Were the Nazis one of those factions? Yes. Can we say that, maybe they had their own agenda? Perhaps. And does the American government do bad stuff? Sure. Does every government do bad stuff? Sure. But I think overall, I'm just saying, overall, I feel hopeful about humanity. I think we're amazing, but I want to be specific. You can't move forward and move forward with hope and love until you understand your actual reality. And our actual reality, again, this is my view, and you can read about it in Hush, is pretty rough, pretty dark, and it holds to this day on many levels. It's going to get better, but so going back to the story of Germany and how they first interacted, what appeared to Fritz Todd and Heinrich Himmler was an 8-foot tall reptilian, essentially a lizard-looking dude who is telepathic because reptilians, Draco reptilians specifically, there's many reptilian races. Most of them are benevolent and wonderful. This particular faction of the reptilian species is called the Draco. They are known multiverse wide to be planet conquering hordes. They're genetic masterminds. They are psychotic as hell, kind of like the American East Coast Mafia. They're brutal. They are feared across the multiverse. They happen to be on our planet. So, who introduced themselves during this seance was a Draco reptilian saying, hey, you guys need some help. You're going to lose the war. We have this specific place in Antarctica that if you'll go there, you might find some technology that will help you go off planet. Because at that time, in 1933, all the way through 1943, you have Maria Orsic in Germany, along with the Vril Society and several other societies working on anti-gravity ships. You guys were actually smart enough, the Germans, the Nazis, were smart enough to already start to have levitation and actually start to work these craft when, by the time 1943 came around, it was pretty much over. You were going to lose the war. You took 50 submarines out of your Nazi fleet. That's what Heinrich Himmler did, kind of behind Hitler's back. At this point, Heinrich Himmler starts to veer off and go, okay, we're not going to tell Hitler because he's going to be a whole issue that we're going to have to use him as kind of a diversion. But we are going to take 50 U-boats out of our fleet, not announce it, and we're going to start hauling people to base 211 under the Antarctic ice shelf, which is what they did. And they started working with the Draco reptilian. The Nazis, of all the humans on the planet, were the first to go off-world. You guys were already building your first moon base on the backside of the moon in the shape of a swastika. Now, I say you guys. You know what? I want to be careful.
Yeah, sure.
This is my first podcast with Germany. I love you guys. Ich spreche Deutsch, aber bisschen Deutsch. I'm German, Selig, right? So I'm just trying to be clear. I'm not blaming anybody here. I'm telling you a historical fact. Okay, whether you believe it or not, I don't care. I'm just telling you what I know the story to be, and it'll be backed up if you start researching this with many overlapping stories of the same story. So anyway, what essentially happened is you started carting men and women. 10,000 Ukrainian women were taken to breed with 2,000 Nazi SS officers in Antarctica. There's an entire city there called New Berlin underneath the ice shelf. It still exists today. From what I understand, it's about 400,000 people. When people think of an ice shelf, think a mile above you is an ice shelf, and you're on a lake inside the ice shelf, and it's warm because there's geothermal heating in Antarctica. And at that base 211, the Nazis start going in cahoots with the Draco, who are showing them how to build off-world ships, meaning anti-gravity platforms. Those platforms are then taken to the moon. The Nazis are the first on the moon, obviously not of ET races like the Draco and the Greys. Those guys had always been on the moon, but the Nazis were the first to build a base, and then the Nazis go to Mars, Ares Prime, and the Nazis literally control Mars. Hence, they eventually go to Ceres. So the Nazis are in space. This is the Fourth Reich that was originally under Himmler. He was the first commandant of the Fourth Reich. And all of these materials and personnel were shipped. The best scientists, they even shipped, from what I understand, up to 10,000 Jewish war camp personnel to be the slave labor force in Antarctica to help build these ships. They wanted a growing force, so they shipped kids there. So all of this is documented in a million different ways. I won't go into that. That's the rough story of how it all began. America really didn't get involved until the Roswell crashes of July of 1947.
Wow. Wow. So yeah, we are definitely the forerunners. But with all of that, first of all, thank you for that, all of these insights. It's mind-blowing, obviously. But the way I understand it, to make it a little bit more, maybe, I mean, maybe it makes it more digestible or it makes it even crazier for people, what I'm about to say. Because for me, like my entire, like I always knew that something was happening to me, like that I'm more active during my sleep states and, this whole, like it almost feels like the life I have when I'm not sleeping is a break from what's actually happening and what's actually been going on. And I've been deeply connected in researching the Palladians and like, what they're basically saying. And I don't know if you know Sarahia fiction, like a lot of the Anunnaki history as well, which is very connected to the reptilians, where the Anunnakis sort of like split themselves even. Like not all Anunnakis are bad necessarily or malicious.
Right.
They're like, and then also that connection to Egypt and what's been going on there and the pyramids and again traveling into multidimensional like timelines or yeah realities I want to say. And the way I see it is that most people that we would label as evil or bad or whatever, they are basically just puppets. Like they don't even know sometimes what's been going on with them. Also in America, then we talk about, all of the mind control things that have been going on back there with the, now I'm losing the word,
MK Ultra.
MK Ultra, exactly, and what's been going on there. So I don't want to, say that people, it's not an excuse for people's behavior, obviously. But when we see the bigger picture of it, that it's actually something where people are being used to, like, even, whenever I connect to Hitler, I'm like, yeah, this guy has been just like so manipulated and he's just playing his role, similar to what Trump does right now. And it's not his own, like, he was not sitting in his room having the idea of controlling humanity out of the blue. Like, seriously, I mean, that's not, and then at the same time, if that was in his mind, he probably needed a whole fucking team to do all of that. Like, we cannot just, make him the bad guy now. It's not only
Exactly.
about him. There's a whole energetic agenda behind it that is not even on this planet. And
That's right. There's
that's what
much
I'm
more behind all of it. Yeah, you're exactly
exactly.
right.
And
Yeah.
everything we see in this reality every single day when we open our eyes, it's beyond the world. Earth is basically just the playing ground. Let's just say that. The question is, why is Earth such a playing ground?
So that's a good question. So there's a number of reasons, but I will tell you that it appears that the number one reason is because there's kind of two levels of ET races, and it's a 95 to 5% ratio, meaning there's a 95% benevolent races that are here around us watching what's unfolding right now. And this year is a very big year. But there's also the 5% that are the malevolent races. It just so happens that the malevolent races came here before we even evolved on the planet because ET races have the capability to look at time in advance and in the past through what we call looking glass technology, but ETs have used that for millions of years. And you have to understand that the Draco, who are a planet conquering horde from all over the multiverse, are able to see what's coming. And what they knew was coming was that humans, and we have this great superpower called love, and when this is expressed, we're literally unstoppable as a species. And so they saw this coming, and their idea, based on fear, because they didn't want to be kind of outdone in the multiverse, is let's go there early before they evolve onto the planet and start to control them. Hence, the moon gets dragged here. Now, I know I'm giving you some big concepts. That's not your moon. It doesn't rotate like a moon. There's a reason for that. You never see the backside of it, which is covered with bases now. Not only the American Lunar Operations Command, but Nazi bases, reptilian bases, gray bases, Chinese, all of the major countries have a base on the backside of the moon now. It will soon be revealed. That is a big hollow planet. It is not organic. If it was organic like any other moon in the multiverse, it would rotate around, but it doesn't. So just kind of think back for a second and go, that is kind of true. It doesn't rotate. I'll just tell you, the reptilians brought that here as a frequency expander to keep humanity down. So all of the mind control that's been going on before we even evolved on the planet was established here by the reptilians. The current status that I know of from all of my sources is roughly 240 to 270 million years ago. They were already here fighting with the grays and the blondes for control of this planet. Why? Because when we as humanity step into who we are, multidimensional beings with love like a lot of other ET races, including the reptilians and grays, they have no emotion whatsoever. This thing of love is our superpower, and we are literally unstoppable when we come as a mass. We're not defeatable. So they kind of picked the wrong target, and that's what's occurring right now. Literally in 2026, a big change is coming for everybody. It's going to get a little rough, but it's going to be great. But the reason they came here, the number one reason the three races came here to fight over this planet and why it's so sought after is fear. They fear what we are about to become, and they want to try to control it. And what happened is they kind of picked the wrong target. We are now literally pushing them off the planet with the current frequency the Earth is going through, a vibrational shift. They physically, reptilians, grays, and any malevolent race can't physically stay on the planet anymore. So big stuff is happening, but that's the Reader's Digest version of why this planet is so sought after. It has a lot to do with fear of what we're about to become.
Well, since you kind of put us in a little, preview, and I'm pretty sure everyone wants to know now, even though we all sense it, what is it about 2026? I mean, I've been talking about 2027 for eons, just because I'm very connected to human design and the prophecy and all of that, and the huge shift with the new children. I'm very connected to those new children, like the hyper children, again, going back to the everything with the genetic engineering, and that we are more than just human. Um, so tell us, why is 2026 such a big year? And we already sense that something is weird
Right.
and off, and like people
Kathy, so Kathy, your estimate of 2027 is exactly what I was saying 5 years ago. And the only reason it literally just shifted to 2026 is the planet is going through what's called compression, meaning events, and let's remember now, ET races experience time completely different than you or I. So we right now live, let's say if you're lucky, 80 years, but humans are supposed to live 300 years. The 80 years has to do with these other races trying to keep us from that 300-year natural term that we have. But in the sense of why it's now shifted to 2026, compression is happening, meaning the Earth, Gaia, or I call her Sophia, is literally blooming. She is, in a nutshell, tired of being controlled by this dark energy. She's rising like a mother bear, and she's dragging us with her. She's dragging humanity going, you're coming with me, we're getting out of this. And she's not allowing any of the malevolent races to stay anymore. Literally, the frequency shift is forcing them off the planet, including the human entities who are most likely, like you say, not what they appear. They might be, the avatar might be infiltrated by a reptilian. And yes, I could be a reptilian giving you mind control, but I'm not. I'm just telling you. But the point is that yes, what's occurring right now is this huge shift. But what happens because, let's say, grays can live 650 years versus us 80 years. So time for all the different races is different. It just appears different. And there really is no time. Time is kind of a matrix. Timeline, there's millions of timelines. That's a whole nother discussion. But I will say this, because events are occurring so quickly now, all the benevolent races are here watching this unfold. There's a new kind of halo around the planet. So much stuff is occurring. Compression is occurring, meaning what you and I thought was going to be 2027, because we've all been feeling that and people have been talking about it, and all your astrological sources are saying 2027. Forget the year. Within the next roughly 360 days, some big shifts are going to occur. And that's all I'm trying to say is compression is occurring. So throw out time. It's happening now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even the astrology says that there's so much energy moving into zero Aries, which is the beginning of the zodiac. We have a 1 year. So I always was like, well, why is it not 2026 when there's like basically the energy of new start? Everything is new, everything is fresh, and we don't have time to close anything off anymore. It's like done. Like, the new beginning is here. So I'm interested and excited to see what's unfolding. And I would love your insights on, because it's a very hot topic right now too, and I've been very observant and connected to what's been going on with Three Eye Atlas. I don't know how much you are researching that or looking at it, but obviously it's this off-planet object that appeared out of the blue almost. And every time there's something with it, I feel it intensely. And even though I'm not like so plugged into what else is going on in space, but I'm noticing that there is something with this object that is really influencing our consciousness, our DNA. It's a very physical thing for me, for sure. So tell us, do you know anything about it? How do you see it? Maybe I almost see it as like a speed bump or an accelerating object. Like ever since this thing came into our consciousness, I feel like things have been speeding up even more.
Good. Okay, so you're on the right track. This has a lot to do with mind control.
Mm.
So
Which, yeah,
what
I wanna before you go into it, because
yeah,
even the naming of it, someone brought it into my awareness, and I'm like, yeah, that's so true. It's three eyes, so third eye, and Atlas is like a compass. So I'm like, okay, is it a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure yet. So I'm
yeah.
observing.
So I'm going to give you my take on it from my various sources. It's essentially another distraction.
Mm.
So it is a reptilian ship, to make it simple. And the reason I say it's another distraction, those malevolent elements that are here, that are in their last grasp to try to hold on to the planet, to try to control humanity, even though they're being pushed off. If you think about when a little kid is being told not to do something in it, and as a last grasp, he does something just kind of violent and grabs it and then runs, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying everything they can, now that they're being forced off the planet, to do one last kind of gasp of control. And so Three Eye Atlas is another way to make humans spin, meaning what they want you to do. So the folks who control the planet, not just the malevolent races, but even the humans, which I call the cabal, think blue bloods, Rothschilds, Rockefellers. It's not one country, it's above all countries. It's a small group of elite who have been working with aliens for decades, in our case. And they have been manipulating world events from not only from Roswell forward, but covering up all of the alien presence on the planet, because they wanted to have all the control with the new technologies and not give it to regular humanity. that has to do with power and control. I won't go into that. You can certainly read about it in Hush. But to get back to your question of Three Eye Atlas, what mind control, meaning what the malevolent aliens want you to do, is not focus on your superpower, your heart space, not your head space. This is where our great superpower is. If you get quiet each day, and I try to tell people, just start with 5 minutes a day. There's no gurus here. If you just get quiet, turn off all your technology and open your heart, not this, don't try to get this quiet. Just get quiet from here. What you're going to find, and allow your brain to just be the decoder of what your heart is saying, you will find an entire new path that you're walking on, which will feel more like home to you because it is. Three Eye Atlas is a way to make you not go inside. What the reptilians and all the mind control stuff that's occurring on the planet and has been for decades is geared to do is to make you go to CNN and to German news and any news that causes fear, including Three Eye Atlas, so that you are constantly asking somebody like me on a podcast, well, what about this Three Eye Atlas? I feel it, and you're right to feel it. What I'm trying to say is let go. Don't fall into the mind control again. Go back inside. Turn off the Three Eye Atlas news, right? Go inside. Your heart will right away realize, oh, that's just another part of the mind control to get me away from who I am, this multidimensional being. Because if I don't go in here and I keep looking out there, I stay small. If I go in here, I become infinite. And that's what we are.
Absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with you. And I've done my best to really plug out because I'm like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, it doesn't affect me here on Earth in my day-to-day life. But I've noticed, and that's my mo yeah, I would say my question is more about how do we then navigate when, and it's the same actually with the moon and the lunar cycle. I feel that too, which I am very aware of, how they use that also to, I want to say, target the nervous system because it's all about the nervous system. And whenever obviously we feel irritated, we feel like this weird like shift in energy, we wake up weird, we want to know why, right? And obviously that brings us into the mind. So we research and then we want to find our own little thing to blame, which could be Three Eye Atlas, which could be the moon. It could be all of that. So we have an understanding of what's been actually going on. And how do you, or what would you recommend people for that? It's something that drives a lot of human behavior, and I want to say the traumas and the things and the self-help industry, like all of that is just because I feel like something is different than yesterday. What's going on? Why am I so out of touch with my heart, right?
Yeah. So I'll tell you what I've been doing. And yes, I agree with you. I'm just guessing. Now, I don't know it as a fact, but I know it from a lot of my friends like you and like me that wake up in fear each day.
Yeah.
And
Like
remember,
literally, I'm
that's,
just I'm
yeah,
interfering here because that's basically my life story is
yeah,
I wake up in panic for no reason. And
sure.
I'm very aware of that's probably something that has been put into my consciousness during the sleep state because I know what's going on when we sleep, when we are unconscious, right? When we are in that very programmable state, right? And then, I mean, it's the best way to program yourself when you work with meditation. You can program yourself, but then it's also all around us. Whenever you go into this specific brainwave state, you can program people. And most people walk around and they are being programmed all the time, 24/7. When you're on your phone, you are very unconscious. You are like you are being programmed everywhere, all the time.
Right.
So I also know that the sleep state is the best way to program people. That's where how people are being kidnapped, taken to ships, like all of that
Sure.
we are talking about is happening while we sleep. So yeah, go ahead with like the waking up
Right.
and feeling being in fear, being anxious, being like I
Right.
don't like literally afraid of life.
So let's talk about mechanisms. And Kathy, let's just say that you are the king dog of mind control. How are you going to do that to a community like humanity? What you're going to do is you're going to go, all right, when they're sleeping, I'm going to fill them full of fear. And when they wake up, what is their natural tendency? Well, let's see. They're going to want to go outside to distract themselves. They're going to want to turn on their technology and go to the news. And what am I going to do to the news? I'm going to put tons of fear in the news. So now what you get to do, Kathy, which is awesome, is you get to wake up in fear and you get to go, oh, I'm not going for your silly mind control. I'm going to go make a small breakfast, some turkey bacon and eggs with a little cup of coffee. I'm going to stay quiet. I'm going to light a little sage, even though I'm kind of fighting the tension and the anxiety, because what's coming is I'm going to sit down and I'm going to open this big orchard that is me. And when I tap into source or love that is me anyway, guess what happens? All the fear just kind of slowly seems to dissipate and then completely disappear because you're in touch with who you are at home. So now each morning, if you'll just get quiet for 5 minutes, and I tell people, look, we all sit on the toilet for 5 minutes a day. There's no excuse that you can't go get quiet for 5 minutes a day. Create a space, defend it as your most important part of your day, and that 5 minutes that you say you're going to do will, like for me, sometimes be up to 3 hours. Because when you're in that space with yourself as love, you're never so content. But it takes work like going to the gym. So now, when you wake up in fear, like we all do, you get to lay there for a second and go, ah, I see your mind control, and I say no. And then you move on with your morning where your whole plan is I'm just going to do a little breakfast. I'm going to turn off all technology, no technology allowed in the morning. I'm going to go to my quiet space where I become expansive as love. And when that occurs and you start your day that way, I will promise you there are molecular changes that begin to occur immediately. And if at any time during your day you sense yourself spinning again, go, ah, I see your fear, your mind control, and I raise you one. I'm going to go get quiet. You don't get me ever again. So it's like that. It's like going to the gym. You start to nurture what you are as this multidimensional love being. Pretty soon they can't even get to you. And what I've noticed about myself is immediately when I wake up in the fear and I'm spinning, I'm like, ah, very nice. Bring it. Bring all you want. You're not getting me. And
Yeah,
that's the way I recommend for everyone.
absolutely. I so agree. And I've spent my last year like that, but then had to kind of like find a way, and I'm still in it because whenever I enter this space and I really allow myself to go into it, I'm just in my bubble the entire day. And sometimes I'm like, am I losing track of reality or other people? Because I'm just like shutting myself off into my bubble to be protected and to feel safe. That's definitely something. But then I also notice like what you say, it's what the Palladians have always said, like override the frequency, override the frequency. And our only job here is to override the frequency. And right now, it is our main job to, whenever you feel denser energy coming into your field, anxiety, fear, all of that, your only job is to override the frequency. So, because I felt guilty for not doing podcasts as much, for not doing readings anymore, but I'm like, my main job, maybe only for a period of time until we are through this shift, is to override the frequency and to be basically overriding frequencies all day. You cannot see that. There's no physical, tangible result, let's just say, at the end of the day, but I know that I've overridden frequencies. And my question is that really just going on until we are through that shift? Because you mentioned, they won't be able to be here anymore. And will we wake up one day and not having to do that whole, I have to,
Correct.
stand
Right.
my ground and it feels like such an effort to always go back into the heart, which should be so normal, right? Like, why is it
Right.
so difficult? Why do we have to practice that?
Right. So remember that if a group has been here for, let's say, 240 million years, preparing before you even arrived on the planet to control you, and it's been for your entire lifetime and maybe more, right? Other lifetimes that you've been here, you have a lot to kind of unpack. But this is one thing I want to throw out. Try not to fight so hard. Don't think of it as, I got to constantly override their frequency. You're excessively more powerful than that, Kathy. You are expansive infinitely. And as you get quiet in your 5 minutes, which might become an hour for you, or some days it's 5 minutes, but maybe you come back to it later in the day. When you're feeling and sensing yourself in that super quiet place that you are as love, you get to put that bulletproof bubble around you, and they don't get to you anymore. You're not fighting to override a frequency. Don't give them that much power verbally. You can say things like, I don't allow you anymore, period. And when you start to sense anxiety, go, no, 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 you don't get to come in. Fuck off. And so then you start to change the mind control. You rewrite the narrative for you as love. And love can say fuck off because love is powerful. And love knows that you're kidding. But what I'm trying to say is don't allow them to have that much power anymore. Rewrite your own narrative. Your day can be amazing and full of love. And when you sense a little craziness, especially if you're on technology, go, you're trying to get me here on my phone. You're trying to get me on my computer. I turn you off now. You don't get to come in. No, fuck off. And you get to go back to your quiet, beautiful self that is multidimensional and infinite. And there you go. It's about resetting the narrative that they've had since before you were born. It's like that.
And would you say that every single human is being, I want to say, targeted like that, or is it a specific group? Because there's always been this talk about it's specific energies that they are trying to get to.
No, I think it's all of humanity. Now, again, this is my take. But I want to throw something out that's really important. All humans can access a state of awareness that is prior to the universe and the source of it. Let me say that again. All humans, and this is only humans, can access a state of awareness that is prior to the universe and the source of it.
Why?
Do you understand that that means that you as love created everything here? So we're all just fractals of this multiverse, right? But humanity created all of this. And if you think I'm silly, that's fine, but read Rumi. He says the same thing. All humanity can access a state of awareness, meaning you as love, that is prior to the universe. Think how powerful you are. Think of the reasons why they would come here to control that power, and that you're the source of the universe. When you realize that, when you're in your state of love, you realize all of this came from love, not this, creating love. All of this, the universe, the human body, came from love, and you're it.
Mm, I love that. Yeah, I mean, it's even the ancients, no matter what you study, it's always been there. It's always been there, basically, that there's nothing to fear if you are in your heart-centered space. Never. And
It's the
it's
same message through all of the sages, male and female, throughout millennia. It's the same message. You are the source of all of it. There is nothing to fear. But we have to rewrite some for us as humanity right now on this planet because of the mind control that's been in our DNA for so long. We have to remember who we are. And as we step into who we are this year, the planet shifts, the universe shifts, we shift. And one final thing I'll say about that, you Germans, you specifically have this amazing man who calls himself Tim Tactical. He's on Gaia TV being interviewed in about season 3, but it's worth it. Get on Gaia TV, get your subscription for whatever it is, $8 a month. Watch Tactical Tim. His background is the German government, think covert German government, the folks who are working with alien traded technologies that don't tell regular Germans they've been doing it since the mid 30s, brought in Tactical Tim when he was a kid, basically, and said, look, we have some multidimensional beings who are trying to communicate with us. We see you as this very bright young kid. They literally taught him how to deal and communicate with multidimensional beings. He talks about being 6, but I say all this because Tactical Tim talks about being in the covert programs for Germany, only for Germany, and dealing with being 6, a multidimensional being who is benevolent and wonderful. He also deals with grays who are much more manipulative. He also deals with many other species. And I'm telling you, watch his interviews. He is phenomenal. He's now worldwide. You can type in tactical or Tim Tactical, and his website even says, all shift happily now. His message is, he's now out of the covert programs, and his message is, everyone needs to shift. We need critical mass right now of all of us love beings, and you say it out loud, all shift happily now. I think his website is all shift happily now, right? .org or something. Tim Tactical, look him up.
I will definitely. I just put it on my.
And he's German, so you can contact him, and you guys can rattle in some German. That'll be fun.
Yes, I have not heard of him before.
But
So,
I'm telling you, he is a love being at the next level. I watch certain people that I kind of know from my sources to be the real deal. Tim Tactical is your German real deal who has been working with your covert government with ET races for over 20 years. He's unbelievable. And his message after he got out of the programs, realizing something was wrong, and he took some bruises for that, is phenomenal. He's basically saying, you manifest as love literally whatever you want tomorrow to be. He's like, you start today and watch what happens. And he's right.
I mean, that entire like love is basically the manifestation charge. Let's just say that. And once I understood that, I also realized why they harvest, I want to say, sexual energy so much, right? That's been a whole program. And even I'm very connected. I don't know how much you are into like Joe Dispenza's work and everything he does with like shifting consciousness, changing your state of being, changing who you are and your identity is about being in the 0 point and connecting to the heart space. Like literally the only thing you have to do is to forget who you are or what your mind is telling you who you are and how limited you are, how small you are. Connect to your heart and expand into infinite possibilities. And I feel like that's really what we have to do. Like forget, what's been stored in your DNA and why it's there and all the trauma and all the programs and all of the things from your ancestors, like all of that thing, we have to leave it behind now. And again, remember who we are and where we came from and create something new, right?
Kathy, what you're saying, which is great, you're saying leave this behind,
Yeah.
which is your ego creating all that fear, going, who am I and what am I and what am I doing? And am I good enough? And is she good enough? And is he good enough? And did I do the right thing? That's all here.
Yeah.
It's not here. So, like you said, when you leave the ego behind, as Rumi says, in the room where we're all sacred, and having wine, meaning the wine feeling of love, there's not one sip left for ego, meaning you've let go of the mind, because the mind is the thing that's been controlled. As soon as you get out of this and quit thinking who you are and what you are and are you up to snuff and are you okay, and if you just let it go and open your orchard, this begins to grow. You get sustenance from what's here, and this quiets down. And that's what we need to do now is shift. Step forward with your heart. Quit leading with your head. That's what they want you to do, because they can control you if you keep leading with this. If you lead with this and just let this be the interpreter for this, they literally can't touch you. You're that powerful.
Yeah. And I mean, even the prophecy about the new children that are going to be here, it's all about they won't allow bullshit. Like literally, they are just so connected to their intuition and their heart, and they just follow the impulses. Like whatever, the heart is saying, like I'm going, like there's no reason, there's no explanation. And there's one of my favorite quotes that I always come back from Sex and the City, actually, which is basically that she's writing poems, and one of the poems is, "It wasn't logic, it was love."
There
And
you go.
I really think that's the way we have to operate, because I think most of the times we don't, or we have the assumption that we need to explain why we do things, why we don't do things, and why something feels good and why we want to follow it and all of the things. But it's the ego feeling like we need to justify, right, why we do things. And that's a program in itself too, and you know, following our heart shouldn't be so complicated or needing an explanation. It's just where you are driven to go to or what you are driven to do. And we have to give ourselves permission again to follow the heart and to lead with the heart, right?
Yep. You're on it completely.
Awesome. So, Michael, tell us, what are you up to for this year? Where's the popcorn? You are watching it from the sidelines, or are you actively doing things? What
No,
are
so I'm working on volume 2. So Hush is a series. It's kind of the covert history of not only the United States, but of the world in dealing with alien technologies and alien traded technologies and alien interactions with humanity. So you'll get to the first edition, Hush, will take you from about 1940 through the Roswell crash landings of 1947. And then volume 2 will take you from kind of 1950, maybe bring you up to the present, but it's all related to what's going on now, which is trying to understand what your actual history may be, not the history that's in books, which only covers the human side of what some historians thought was occurring, but it doesn't cover, to me, what is the more important side, which is the off-world races that have been here, including races within the planet. The honeycomb of our planet is full of benevolent races. And so my goal with Hush is to allow people to understand what might be their actual history moving forward so that they understand a much grander picture of what's really been occurring around them for their lifetimes.
And when can we expect that? Do you have an estimate?
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously, Hush is already out there. You can go to Amazon and get and that's a 600-page novel. So you're going to get a lot of history right there. And the Audible is 22 hours long. So it's a lot. And I do the Audible, so you'll get to hear my fun voice for the whole thing. But volume two will probably be a year or so. It's a lot to write 600 pages, and I'm an insane researcher. So, but like I said before, I can even write the next sequence. I have to kind of insanely study every part that I'm researching to understand what really did occur during that covert event. And that takes a lot of research and working with my sources to uncover, oh, what happened in 1954 at Edwards Air Force Base, which at the time was called Muir Field, with Eisenhower and the aliens that arrived and the large group of people who were there to witness the event. It takes a while to understand what really occurred there before I can write about it. So another year or so, and hopefully I'll get another Hush Volume 2 will be out.
Awesome. So I'm pretty sure we'll have you back when that's happening. And in the meantime, everyone has to do their homework and, dive into Hush and all. I mean, everything you mentioned, I'm going to link down below, including the series book,
Okay.
because I'm very curious about that. I'm not even sure if I want to start with that first or Hush. And then obviously 10 tactical, all of the things will be down below, including where we can find you. Are you active on social media or are you
Yeah.
like
So
plugged out as
there's
much?
kind of a Sure. There's kind of a whole group that runs my stuff, and you can go to mdcelig.com,
Mm.
and all of the links are there, including my Patreon page. You can watch some of the actual contact events from 1947 of our first contact with alien races. You can also see some actual colorized footage of the original autopsies of some aliens that were at Roswell, as well as just links to the Amazon. The book is available on all the regular platforms, Amazon, etc. But mdcelig.com will get you there. And Kathy, it's been such a pleasure and an honor to be on your show, and you ask really poignant questions. And it's something that I'll look forward to getting back with you after you get through Hush. You'll have a lot more questions.
Of course, I'm sure I will. Thank you so much for your time and insights as well. I want to give you one final, opportunity to leave our listeners with something to ponder on or reflect on or to feed the overthinking mind, to bring it back to your mug. So, what would you say?
Sure. So I would say that I'll reiterate, find your quiet space and defend it. So if it's 5 minutes in the morning, do it the same time each day as best you can. Turn off your technology. Find out what you are in here. And the final thing I'll say is this year, a lot is going to occur, wonderful things, but it's going to get a little rough before that, i.e., what's happening in the media right now. Turn off the technology. Try not to go for the mind control. What's coming is very exciting and exponentially wonderful, but it'll get a little rough before it all transitions. But we have a very exciting future ahead for all of us.
Thank you. I love that. And I think if we expect it for this year, it will be less challenging. It's almost like, yeah, of course, that's gonna be happening. And the next thing and the next, it like, when COVID started and like, oh, another thing, oh, and another thing. Hey, bring even more, we are
Mhm.
expecting, I want to say the attacks, but it doesn't get to us because, yeah, obviously it's like in a movie, yeah, it's gonna climax before the happy ending, hopefully.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, Michael, I'll let you go and enjoy your day and enjoy the rest of your coffee. And I'm excited to be back with you soon. Yeah, so enjoy your time and, ride the waves and tune into the heart. That's where we're all connected anyways.
Okay, and Danke schön. Auf Wiedersehen and guten Abend.
Guten Abend. Bye bye.
Bye bye.